Welcome to Out Comes the Sun podcast with my partner, Melissa Yamaguchi, and I'm Mariel Hemingway. And today we have a very special guest because he's a friend and I love him and he has great stories. And I actually had the great privilege of being on his Hiking with Kevin show, which he does all on his own. It's amazing. I mean, literally, your show is so great. He takes mostly bigger celebrities than me out on hikes. He takes them out on hikes, and they have great conversations. I think the latest one was with Conan O'Brien. It's hilarious. Anyway, he is a great comedian. He's also a great human being, which for me is really utmost of importance because this show is about mental health. And Kevin, I will say more about you, but the reason why I reached out to you is you posted something on Easter that I thought was just so touching. I mean, there was some humor to it, but what was so great about it is, and I'm just going to read it. So
Sure.
before you get to hear from Kevin. So this was his post on Easter.
But you have to kind of show the picture too, because it refers to the picture.
Well, true. This
Yeah.
does. Yes. Okay. Well, yes, it absolutely does. Well, we will do that. In the edit, we will show a picture of the Instagram post. Okay. So
get the shirt.
Get the shirt because so if you're just listening, the post it's a picture of a sweaty shirt, but the visual of it is like this image of Christ on the cross. It's profound. It's actually profound. Anyway, so yeah, there it is.
There we go.
Now we're sharing it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of extraordinary. So your post says on September 12th, 2003, I was going through a very dark period in my life. It was honestly my lowest point. I struggled through what I thought would be my last workout. Shortly thereafter, at home, I slid even further into a dark crevasse of despair. I stared at my sad and broken self in the mirror. Suddenly, out of nowhere, I felt this beautiful light of encouragement wash over me. I didn't believe it at first, but when I looked closer, I realized that yes, it was the image of my trainer demonstrating the lat machine wide grip pull down. I haven't missed a workout since. Happy Easter. Well, that really looks a bit more Christ-like than it does like a lat machine, but I love the humor, and I also love the message behind this is that I mean, we all come up against these dark and difficult times in our lives. And I think that you shared it in such a kind of non-egotistical way, but a really profound way to kind of really remind us all that we're all in this together. And I would love for you, Kevin, and welcome, first of all, welcome to our show.
Thank
you. I would love for you to talk a little bit about that in that time in your life.
Well, it wasn't specifically a time in my life. It was more of a setup for that little joke in there. But certainly I've gone through times like that where I was kind of in the darkness and was looking for ways out of that. And and it's not anything in my life where I was falling deeper into the crevasse of darkness, but it was losing a hope and hope in my dreams and hope in just my my life and things like that.
And well, the reason why I ask is because so often with comedians, they're the you're on all the time, you're super funny, you're this, you're that, you're up on stage, and then in real life, I mean, Robin Williams comes to mind. I think you knew him. I did. I had met him a couple times in my life, but his story is so kind of deeply touching and also really in a way, because I think there's this thing that happens with a lot. I mean, I think of my grandfather, for instance, creatives, people that their brains are working all the time. There seems to be this Yeah, the dark night of the soul often comes over people that are extremely funny, deeply creative, and their minds work really, really fast. So
Right.
I expect you to step up right now and become an incredibly genius person, which you already are.
Thank you.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's true what you say about comedians. I think there is a lot of darkness in a lot of comedians. They come from broken homes or lives that weren't very desirable, and that comedy is an outlet for their stand-up and expressing themselves. For me, I came from a great family, good, great parents, and good situation. I wasn't a wealthy family, but it was upper middle class. And that's not to say that a wealthy person or someone in middle class or whatever can't be down or be depressed or fall into that darkness. And I knew Robin Williams for maybe 40 years. I was a bartender at the Improv for a couple of years, and I did stand up there, and he was in there all the time. And he was always on. He was always that frenetic kind of running around, and he just loved making people laugh. So obviously he had his demons too, and I don't know if that was a chemical situation in his mind or whatever it was, but
Right.
unfortunately he wasn't as happy as we all thought he would be.
Yeah. Well, and I think I think that happens a lot with not just comedians, but I think creatives. And I think there's something about being in that kind of limelight when you get all of that attention that, I know for my grandfather, he didn't believe that, I don't know this for a fact because I was not born yet, but my gut tells me that there was kind of a superstition around the kind of life that he was leading, the amount of drinking and living a high life, like being on all the time. And I think there was a superstition about that feeding his creativity. You know what I mean? So I think that happens with comedians a lot. You are a unique person in the sense that your comedy is fantastic and it's so warm. You don't go after people. You go after yourself. You're very self-deprecating, right? But you never point fingers. You're very much, you're just I don't know. I love you for that. I love the fact that you're just, you're not out to get somebody, right? At the expense of it, just for a joke. And right. I don't know. I just deeply appreciate that. I don't know. It's kind. It's a kind-hearted thing. And, I think we live in a world that is so cynical and sometimes dark. I don't know. Yeah. Well.
Yeah. I don't have that nature to go after people in my act, although a lot of comedians now, the venters, like to go after people. But for me, I've gotten laughter out of turning it around to me, kind of not being the most bright person, and that's how I construct my jokes. Or whatever the situation is, it's kind of lighthearted. And I'm constantly going through different phases of my stand-up. I've never really went after anybody, but it's kind of been evolving over the years, and it's getting darker. My observations are getting darker.
Are they?
They are. It's more about the time we have here on the planet and my miscalculations about things, like that.
Right. No, I get it. That's awesome. Do you think that your caricatures influence your comedy now? Do you feel more connected when you're painting, when you're doing by the way, your caricatures are so awesome. Like, I love them. No, they're extraordinary. This book, I just want to do a shout out. You've got to check out his book. I exaggerate my brushes with what? My brushes
fame. Yeah.
With fame.
Yeah, it's a lot of celebrities that I've done caricatures of. A lot of them were my friends, and I talk about the experiences that I had with each person. And there's some really good stories. Robin's in there, and I mean, I could go on and on. There's just a lot of people in there, and it was just a real work of love for me. It was hard work. I did a lot of them during the pandemic, and finally put it together. And it's kind of interesting because during the pandemic, no one could work, including comedians. So I never really took off more than a week in my life of doing stand-up comedy since I first started. So this was a real kind of a void for me. And I found that doing caricatures and posting them on Instagram was like a nonverbal form of comedy because they were pictures that made people laugh. And that was satisfying for me for the time being.
That's amazing.
I want to ask you, I read something that—
Melissa, you stay out of this.
My tongue's almost gone. I've been chewing on it so long. I read one time that you had said that when you were 8, a gentleman had done a drawing on a napkin, a caricature of someone with a hat and a large nose or something, and that really struck you. And so you practiced that over and over again at such a young age. When did you start diving into it more seriously? Was it COVID? Because that's you. So you've been drawing for a long time then.
Well, Melissa, it's been a very gradual evolution for me because I did find that napkin that I emulated, and that really sparked me in a way. And then I started drawing other things over a period of time, and then I started sketching people, and then I started making them look funny. But it was never really focused like I'm doing now. It was just quick little scribbles, just a pen on white paper. And then I got more into it. I remember had caricatures framed of my parents hanging in my bedroom over the dresser. And every night I lie down and they were in my field of vision. So I'd see them and I was subconsciously studying those. And they were from a great impressionist from Paris. And so they weren't like the kinds you see at the fairs and stuff. So I watched that for a while. And then I started on SNL when we were doing the table reads, which is when we're reading through the sketches that were being considered for the upcoming show. I would sketch the other cast members across from me if I wasn't in a sketch in the margins of the paper. And it just started going like that. And then in the clubs, I would sketch comedians that were on stage. And then ultimately I started this whole process of colorizing them and being more specific because I watched a lot of artists on Instagram, illustrators, and I liked their work, and I just started emulating that style.
And some of the great artists have done a shout out to you how great your work is, which is really must feel really good to have them.
Well, yeah, I mean, I never thought I'd hear from Leonardo da Vinci, but he said characters are great. Monet. Yeah, no, that is a great feeling. It's a great feeling. One of them, he's a friend of mine now, but he's a friend who wants to do stand-up, and I want to be an artist. And he's one of the best illustrators in America.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and he was giving me a lot of hints and tips about sketching and drawing my drawings because he did great ones. And then he wanted to get into stand-up, so I'm giving him tips on stand-up. So It was really interesting. It was that, that whole duo kind of a interest, passion thing. And I'm feeling sorry for him because he's got to start off from the beginning as a stand-up. And he's probably feeling sorry for me because I'm starting off as an artist.
No, I think this book is fantastic. And if people haven't looked at your Instagram, it's wonderful because you can go through like all of your posts on the different caricatures. It's amazing. And then you'll go on a hike in the middle with somebody,
right.
which is awesome, which is also awesome. I thought you took somebody on my hike a couple of weeks ago. Then I realized, no, it was not my hike.
No, but that's a great hike though, that trail.
That was fun. It was amazing. So what Kevin does is he has a drone and you run everything yourself. I feel sort of like I'm cheating because here we are in a room and it's all, blah, blah, blah. But you're great. Like you go on a hike with you and you film the whole thing. He gets the drone going. I remember my dog almost attacked, I think that did attack the drone actually.
Your dog got the drone. Yeah. And I
You
used
did
that
get
in
the
the
voice.
hike. I put that in the
Yeah,
hike. It was so funny.
I
But
know. It was
that hike was
good.
great because at the end of it, there was this old foundation with all kinds of graffiti on the top. And I think you go there often to do yoga or
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah. Well, I left, as you know, Bobby and I left California to go to Idaho for, when it got all crazy here. And we've come back. Now we're in Venice. It's a very interesting place.
Which
to
is
be.
so good
Ooh.
because Venice isn't crazy at all.
Oh God, no.
So good.
Jeez. Help. What were we thinking? Anyway, it's interesting. Especially in the middle of the night on the weekend. What?
Yeah, I love Venice. I love Venice.
It's fun. It's fun.
Yeah.
It's good. So Melissa, I know that you have questions. She's very polite. She never interrupts me. I interrupt her all the time, as you can see.
It's the Oklahoma girl in me. I just kind of way back. But knowing that you're a comedian and knowing that you've got art, these are two different modalities for expression. And one of the things that Mariel and I've talked about with the Mariel Hemingway Foundation for Mental Health is the therapeutic benefit of art and how it's so valuable in treating depression or PTSD and some phobias, which seems highly selective. I'm not sure why only some phobias are addressed with art therapy, but knowing that there's the art and the expression. I like how you said earlier it's a nonverbal form of comedy, your art. I recently read in kind of researching art and comedy as a form of therapy, and I came across this article in LA that at the Laugh Factory in Hollywood brought on a psychologist, excuse me, for their comedians because they were finding so much trouble with the depression and made perhaps chemical use, but they brought a psychologist in, and now a lot of other laugh factories or comedy stores are starting to bring in more therapists and more help. And I know that this isn't something that has plagued you. You did talk about different moments in your life, but have you been to any store or factory that has had a psychologist on board for that you've been aware of?
No,
Before you ask, Kevin, sorry, I'm going to interrupt you. Hold that thought because we have to go to a little commercial break.
okay.
So we'll come back to what you were thinking. Kevin Nealon's new book is out. It's called I Exaggerate My Brushes with Fame. It is a collection of Kevin's caricature paintings of celebrities. Each one is accompanied by an anecdote about his experience or relationship with them. It's quite fun and wonderful. I Exaggerate My Brushes with Fame is published by Abrams and is available wherever books are sold. Go to kevinnealon.com/book. Welcome back to Out Comes the Sun podcast. I'm Mariel Hemingway with my partner, Melissa Yamaguchi, and we have a wonderful guest, Kevin Nealon. And I want to give you back to Melissa's question. So you can start there.
Okay. I've never seen another comedy club that had a psychologist or a psychiatrist there to deal with the comics. I think it's a great idea. I don't know if that person is still there. I haven't gone to that club in a while, but I thought that was a great idea. This kind of came after a period when several comedians had committed suicide. And like a lot of people, you don't even know that they're in that dark place. And when you find out too late. So I think it's good to have somebody to go to for them. And as far as any other clubs having a psychologist there, they probably do, but they're trying comedy on stage. They want to be a But you talk about art being therapeutic and helping people. I totally think that's true. Especially if you're drawing it. I think if you're drawing, for me, I had a severe case of claustrophobia for a while, for a couple of years. And I was living in New York and doing Saturday Night Live at the time. So it was really, really difficult for me, like going through the tunnels to get to the airport. I would have to put a blanket over my head and listen to my Walkman at the time. This is back in the 1900s,
Yeah.
And whatever it was, getting on an elevator. But I found that if I was stuck on the tarmac in a plane, it was delayed, I would simply take out my sketch pad and a pencil and I would start sketching. I would totally get away from all of that stuff and I'd be drawn to that picture. And before we knew it, we were up in the air. And to this day, I sketched other airplane passengers next to me on the plane.
That's awesome.
I've seen some
I
of them.
love
You've
that.
got 1D, the passenger from 1D or whatever it is. It's
Yeah,
great.
I put the seat number and where they're going.
That's so good.
Thanks.
It's so good.
But yeah, I think people really enjoy, and they can kind of escape by looking at good art, and even bad art. You know,
Yeah.
It's really, I think it's very therapeutic, as is music.
What do you do
Absolutely.
in your life to stay optimistic, to stay so positive? And because you are known for your, yes, you've got a gentle, self-deprecating humor, and your humor with your best close friends that you've interviewed have been very brotherly in the way you kind of jab at each other, which is always so. I have two older brothers, so I always appreciate it. But I wonder, because you are uplifting and you are, I've been fortunate enough to meet you in person once at Mariel's. You're very positive and kind. What do you do to stay so optimistic and hopeful?
Well, I think it's all how you perceive things in life, your perception of things. It's funny how someone could be, it's not funny, but it's interesting how someone could be down. And if they get a little bit of good news, all of a sudden they're up, or, you know, they notice something, they're up. It's so interesting the way the moods of somebody operate. I remember one time, I'll never forget this. I was driving on the 101 past a canyon out near Malibu, and the sun was, I don't know, maybe it was positioned just in the right spot in the sky. And I looked from my car down that canyon, and this wave of euphoria rushed over me. And I thought that, did I just look into the canyon of heaven or something? Because it was just like, and, you know, I've gone by that place again. I've never experienced it again, but that was quite a, it's again, it's kind of how you look at things and how you open yourself up to happiness. And as far as optimism goes, I even say this in my act. I said, I think it's very important to be optimistic. In fact, when I see an adult wearing braces, I smile because I know they have hope for the future. Otherwise, why make that investment, right?
Right?
That makes me think of that older man that Mariel and I had heard about, this 80-year-old who went in to get his teeth fixed, and he had some chips, and the dentist said, "You're fine. Your teeth are still pretty sturdy. You're fine. You don't need those chips fixed." And he said, "Why not?" And she said, "Well, you're older. They're chipped." He said, "Well, why don't you fix my teeth as though I'm going to use them for the next 20 years? I'm going to be around." Yeah, I like that.
I know. It's
Yeah.
like I started taking piano lessons a couple of years ago, and people say, "Why now?" You know, why now?
But why not? Right?
Right.
Why not? I
Yeah.
think and you know, the funny thing is, and I think that we shared this. I don't know if we shared it on just one of our hikes. We were trying to find whales or dolphins or something. We didn't find it, either one, but the ocean was still there.
Yeah.
But I think that there's a shared sort of common, like, just the view of the world is just from this positive place, but also that comes from an intention. And we talk a lot about on the podcast kind of waking up with intention, like almost like prayer in the morning or meditation that is focused towards like the day that you want to have, and having optimism in those intentional thoughts. Or it's very powerful. I think it does, you know, affect how your day will unfold.
Right.
I don't know.
Right.
You know,
I think it's also
whatever.
important to let loose and be angry and get all that out of your system as much as possible.
Oh yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and then clear some space for that happiness.
100%. Well, I think if you deny that you're angry when you're angry, then it just builds up. It becomes some physical weirdness in you and you become sick or whatever. But I think you're absolutely correct. I think pretending like you're happy all the time is well, that lie doesn't really pan out very well. I think you have to acknowledge how you are, but that's the ability to be self-reflective, right? You have to know what you're feeling in a moment, right?
Yeah.
And then if you address that, then you can let it go, right? I think that's the key to a healthy relationship too. If you can be honest about how you feel in any moment, then you can move through it. If it's a bad place, you can move through it if you're honest about it, right? You're not in denial about it. I don't know. It's my feeling.
Yeah. It's only temporary, and you'll get there if you just open yourself up to it and, get through that ride.
Yeah, 100%. So I have a weird question to ask you.
I like weird questions.
Well, it's not weird. I idolize James Taylor in some kind of way, but I do too. So, and I didn't really actually know this about you, but I idolize him too. I'm just obsessed with him.
Yeah.
Why? What is it that? Do you know him? Do you know James?
I do know him now, but I didn't when I was first a fan. I'm 6 years younger than him. So I saw him when he was about 21, and I just couldn't believe all the talent he had with the guitar playing and the finger, because I played the guitar, and his voice and just his persona. And I saw him so many times in concert. And I was just, anytime he came out with a new album, I would set it up, I'd play it, I'd lay down on the couch and just really absorb every song. And I know there's a lot of us out there that are really obsessive fans of his. But I got to know him when he was on SNL. He was the musical guest.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And I was I was so excited that he was there, and also nervous. And when he was out by the craft service table, that's where they have the food for the actors, the crew and stuff. He was there eating a donut, and I came over to him. I said something like, "James, you got to try the chocolate frosted glaze. Those are really good." Oh, are they? Yeah, okay. And we started talking for a while, and I was asking him about chords on a certain song. I said, "Do you use your pinky for that when you make that chord?" He goes, "Yeah, I do. Yeah." I thought, I was afraid of that, because that's a hard chord to make. And we just kept talking, and eventually he said to me, we should get together sometime. I say that a lot about people, but I really would like to do that. And so I said, I'm down for that. And he gave me his phone number. And within about 4 days, got to keep him waiting a little bit, just jump on that. I called them, and I met him for dinner, and it was like a date. I was so nervous. I go up the elevator to his apartment. He's there waiting for me. We get in the elevator. This is the guy I went to see in concerts when I was 16, all my life.
Yeah.
And I was just, just infatuated with it as a musician. And so we're walking down Broadway, and he goes, where do you want to go to eat? I said, anything you want, James. I'm up for anything. He goes, all right, I know this nice Cuban restaurant. I'm like, oh no, I don't like Cuban food. It makes me sweat. It's spicy. But I didn't say anything. I said, yeah, let's get Cuban. And we go there, and we're eating, and I forget what we're talking about, but I'm like sweating, and I'm all red. I'm like, no kidding, really, James? Oh, that's cool. I saw you in Tanglewood once. So we're walking back to his apartment, and I'm thinking, how do we end this now? It's like a date. I said, do I kiss him? Do I hug him? What do I do? We get up to his floor, and he said, well, I had a nice time with you. And I said, I did too. He said, we should do this again sometime. I said, I don't think so. Not with Cuban food. No, it was great. So now we've become friends, and I've done different projects with him. I went out to Martha's Vineyard one time, and I was doing B-roll for his concert that was coming up, or new album. And we had this little cabin there, and he had one next to him because he was reworking his house, rebuilding it. And he came over with his laundry because his washer and dryer didn't work.
Oh my gosh.
And then he spreads out all of his index cards on the table, asking, for his next concert. He says, what do you think I should end with? I'm like, he's asking me what he wants to end with. I can't believe it.
That's so awesome.
And currently he has an index card, which was a song, Walk Down That Lonesome Road, which is very moving. And he played it at John Belushi's funeral. So I said, James, maybe you don't want to end with this song. And because he goes, no, I'm ending with that song. I'm ending with that song. I said, okay, all right. Because I'm thinking like a comic, you don't want to end with something that's kind of soft and,
Right.
So I didn't give him any more advice on the song.
That is so good.
Yeah, it was great.
Take a moment. We're going to take a little break right
All
here. And first of all, I want you to check out the hilarious talk show, which I was a part of at one time, called Hiking with Kevin, and it can be found on YouTube. Subscribe to Kevin at Kevin Nealon Comedy. Follow Kevin on Instagram, Kevin Nealon, on Twitter at Kevin lower. What are those things called? Underscore. Thank you. Underscore Nealon at Kevin _ Nealon. Sorry. See,
That's
Melissa,
okay.
you should have done this. And finally, see Kevin. Dates for his stand-up tour can be found at kevinnealon.com. Well, at least I got that right.
Yeah.
Yeah, my grandfather told me to keep your mouth closed and don't open it and remove all doubt. So I just hold back for a minute.
Oh my God. Sorry about that. Hello, people.
All right. Stand
Okay.
by. Oh, and by the way, Kevin, I think you and I ought to get together, for some Hispanic or Korean food. How about that?
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. I think that would work.
Who's that actor that's on Blazing Saddles that you guys are telling me sound like for a moment? Who's that comedian?
All right. Here we go. Oh God, I love that movie. All right, here we go. In 3, 2, 1. You are live.
Welcome back to Outcomes of Sun Radio podcast with Mariel Hemingway and my partner, Melissa Yamaguchi, and our amazing guest, Kevin Nealon. Oh yeah, your story, you have such a wealth of experience, so many great stories and people that it's nice. When I think of hiking with Kevin, it really is, there's something profound about that because you're being physical with somebody, and there's something about being out in nature and moving your body that changes the dynamic of a conversation. And I think that's why your podcast is so, it's so, I don't know, we want to say successful. It's just, it really gets you because there's something about moving in nature that does something to you.
Yeah, I think it's a lot of different or several reasons. One is that. The other reason is my guests feel less intimidated because we're outside, there's no audience. It's just me. Sometimes people show up and they go, "Where's your crew?" I say, "Well, it's just me." And I have a selfie stick with a GoPro at the end. Originally, it was a cell phone camera, but that was too shaky. And maybe I was a shaky one. I don't know, but I blame it on the camera. So people are outside, and I noticed too from my own hiking is when you're outside, you're really a lot more open about things. You're much more revealing. And I don't know if it's the endorphins or the adrenaline that's going through you, but there's so many reasons why that I think it works as a web series.
Yeah, no, it's amazing. And I think there's something that happens because you're not sitting here thinking about what you're going to say. You're like, because the body's moving. So there's no time to be like, whatever. I don't know. You're going to trip, so there's other things going on. I think it does make you very real and kind of really more honest. And you're right. There's no audience. And after a while, you forget that that's what you're doing. That's what's cool. Yeah. It's cool.
And then you also incorporate the scenery, the views from the top, or, that foundation with all the graffiti on it.
Yeah, right. I know.
Do you encounter a lot of other people on your walks that kind of walk in and out of your?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Especially if I'm hiking in Griffith Park. I see, like I hiked with Jack Black there once, and I'm telling you, we had to stop like every 10 yards to take a selfie with somebody. He did, not me. and so I tend to go on weekdays now where it's not so crowded, but I'll run into a lot of friends that are out hiking, and even people that aren't friends that I see on the trail, and they're friendly, and sometimes we stop and talk. One guy I ran into in Will Rogers State Park, he was walking and he couldn't believe that he ran into us. He goes, I love hiking with Kevin. I see it all the time. We said, where are you from? He says, Canada. I said, wow, you've been hiking a long time. This trail goes up there. Anyway, he was a super fan of the show. So I'm glad he kind of ran into us.
Super.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's good. That feels good.
That does. So I enjoy it too, because I get a little exercise, even though each year, Mariel, I tell you that the first year I started, the hikes were like that. And then the next year, I've done 4 seasons. Soon it'll be going downhill with a car waiting at the bottom.
You're going from Black Diamond to Bunny Hill.
So good. Well, it's no joke. You're handling the camera and then the
drones.
Something there. It's a lot. You do a lot and you get great shots. It's amazing. It's really cool. Yeah, it's very cool.
I'm still figuring it out though, because when I have a shorter guest, I mean, real short, a lot of times I just get the top of the head. So I thought, I got to figure that out. I got to get a longer selfie stick.
Because aren't you like 6'4", 6'3", 6'4"?
Yeah, I am. When I stand up straight.
Yeah, so you're taller than the majority of people.
Yeah, sure. That's true. That is true.
And how long have you been married, Kevin?
Pardon me?
How long have you been married?
I've been married for about 17, 18 years.
Suki, right?
Well, it's Susan, yeah, but her handle is Suki Yeagley. Yeah.
Suki Yeagley. She's very funny. I love it. She's a comedian, correct?
She's a comedic actress. Yeah, she was on Parks. She had a recurring role on Parks and Rec, and she was in the latest Christopher Guest movie called Mascots.
Nice.
Awesome. She's really
she's wonderful. She's very funny. I love following her on Instagram. She cracks me up.
She's got a great Instagram.
She does. She's just prim and proper. Is she Southern?
She's from Nashville. Yeah. She's from Nashville.
She seems like a Southern girl.
Yeah. And her website is great. A lot of people love her website. It's at Suki Yeagley, SUKIYEAGLEY. And it's just so refreshing to watch her. She has my favorite things, and she'll find out, she'll present some things that she found that are really interesting and that she loves. And she'll do like 3 of them, and people love it.
Right. Were all the people in your book, were all of them friends?
No. And the ones that weren't, I just kind of mused about them. And if it was Freddie Mercury, who I did from Queen, I would just muse about going to concerts and what those were all about for me. Or if it was RBG, I would talk about, I forget what I talked about on that one, but most of them I did know in there. Most of them I do know. And I'm thinking of a lot more that I want to do maybe in another book. But also, you really can't be a perfectionist in anything you do, because I look at that book now, and as hard as I worked on it, I look at some of the pictures and I go, I could have done better on that one. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, that's the artist in you. I think that's always like, God, I could have, woulda, shoulda, but we don't see it. You do. That's in your head.
That's true. That's true.
And your talent is supersedes so many people, kind of like your height. My husband and I played Pictionary one year. My husband and I were on a team playing Pictionary one year. If I can share this to make you feel better about your drawing, not that you need it. And I drew the card, and I began drawing furiously because it's a time game in addition to an artistic game. And I'm drawing furiously, and my husband screamed out broccoli, and I said, I'm over it. I'm not playing anymore. It was supposed to be foot. I was over it. There were not that many toes on it. I don't know what he was doing or thinking, but
that's a fun game.
I look at your work, and I'm so amazed by how you capture a feature on somebody and exaggerate it to the point where it's sometimes you get these drawings done when you're a kid, you go to places and they'll draw your face and they'll exaggerate the nose or the chin or something, and it's almost you giggle, but it's almost insulting. You have exaggerations that are flattering, and everyone can recognize them right away. It's amazing.
Thank you. I did one of Matt LeBlanc, and I sent it to him, and he texted me back. He goes, I love it. I think. But the
Right?
problem with drawing caricatures is that everywhere I go now, it's like being in a fun house with the mirrors, because I'm looking at
Right.
everybody's features, thinking how I would exaggerate them.
Right.
The next
You know
time
what's interesting? Yeah, go ahead.
I'm going to wear a burqa the next time we're on with him, because I'm not going to.
Well, what's interesting about the caricatures is that I always find that what you exaggerate kind of it pinpoints who they are. Like that exaggeration, it's like you know exactly who they are, right? It's
Yeah. If you do it right, yes.
Well, you've done it right. I promise you. I promise
Thank you.
you. Yeah.
Thank
it's
you.
very
I
cool.
love doing it. It's like a whole newfound career for me now. It used to be a hobby, but now I had a gallery showing here where people were buying the paintings, and we're selling a lot, and I had a lot of
Wow.
come, and yeah, it was really, really fun for me. And so I love doing it. And I hope to get better and better at it.
Oh,
Like
you
Grandma
will.
Moses.
Yeah.
What year were you born, Kevin?
I was born in 1953.
53.
So
Okay.
69.
69. I'm 61. We're in the
Oh, you're a
same.
kid.
I know, right? That's how you
How did it
feel,
feel
right?
how did it feel turning 60 for you?
I have to say 50 didn't feel like anything. 60 was a little bit more like, holy shit, it's 60. Not because I felt it so much, but I felt like, oh shit, I'm 60. Wait, I don't know. I don't know what I thought it would be like, but I think the most profound thing that's happened, now being 61, is my daughter just had a baby. So I've become a grandmother. Wow. That was not in a bad way. It was like that was a transition that really like marked 60 for me in a way that I thought, okay, well, this is cool. Like, wow. It's a very, very special, and I imagine it's going to unfold to be even more special as, right now she's 3 weeks old. So I don't get a lot of time because my daughter misses her after a minute of me holding her. So,
I get that.
But that was kind of made me really not feel 60 in a bad way, but feel, I thought I'd earned something. I don't know. It was pretty powerful.
Oh, it's gotta be amazing.
Yeah, it really is. Like just to see, I mean, it'll make me cry thinking about it. Just to see your baby become the mother of a baby. It's just bizarre.
Oh my gosh, I can't imagine that. That's
it's
awesome.
super cool. Yeah. I mean, and then seeing her be a mom and seeing her have the same kind of reaction to her baby the way you did. And I mean, I keep texting her, like, I'm so proud of you, because it's just natural, right? But becoming a mother was very natural for her. And it's not always natural for people. Some people suffer from, like depression or whatever, but she's taken it on in a very graceful manner. And I'm so proud of her. It's like, wow. It's when your kids come full circle and you realize that those couple of teenage years that you thought, I don't know if you're from the same planet. But it all doesn't matter. Because now they know who you are.
The great thing is that she's learned from you. And like when I'm raising my son, I think about my mother and father, how they raised us. And it's really, it's a good reference book right there.
Absolutely. That reminds me, you mentioned your parents a couple of times. You have a beautiful story about your parents, about your dad. When you first came out to LA, kind of, and you were just struggling and doing, and like didn't know if this was going to work, and what he said to you. I would love for you to share that, because it just is so, I love this story.
Well, like I said, I came from a family full of love, and we had so many happy moments. We traveled through Europe. We used to live in Germany when I was a kid, when I was 6 until I was 10. And so I learned how to swim in Greece. I learned how to ski in the Alps. I learned how to argue in Italy. But so we were a pretty tight family. And
Can I, oh God, I'm going to interrupt you because they're making me take a break.
Yeah, let's take a break.
Hold that thought. Okay.
I'm holding it.
So, okay, I'm going to do my final commercial. So you may know Kevin Nealon as a celebrated comedian and Saturday Night Live alum, but he also happens to be a talented caricature artist. And he has a book called I Exaggerate, My Life, what is it? My brushes with fame. My brushes with fame. I exaggerate. My brushes with fame. I don't know why I can't keep that in my head.
That's okay. It's a long title.
I like it though. He's a comedian. He's an actor. He's been in some great series that I've loved over the years. I love your characters. And alongside his portraits and doodles from script margins and cocktail nubbins, Nealon takes readers through his memories of everything from the set of Saturday Night Live and Chris Farley and Dana Carvey to his idolization of James Taylor, Tiffany Haddish's vegetable garden, the eulogy he gave his dear friend Gary Shandling at his funeral, which was absolutely beautiful, and much more. This is a charming and gorgeously illustrated project from an all-star comedian that is sure to delight. So pick up your copy. Go to kevinnealon.com/book. Thank you. Welcome back to Out Comes the Sun radio podcast with Melissa Yamaguchi and myself, Mariel Hemingway, and our wonderful guest, Kevin Nealon. Continue with your story about your parents.
So we're a tight-knit family, and I decide to go out to California to pursue my stand-up career. And it was very difficult to leave home because I had a younger brother who was maybe around 7 at the time. Around 7. It was a 16-year difference than me.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So it kind of felt like my son a little bit because I would take care of him a lot. And, and so it was hard to leave him and of course the rest of my family. So I get out here to LA and I'm doing stand-up, and I gave myself, I think, 2 months to see if I saw any progress. And so I was out here for 2 months and it was going well, but I was getting homesick. And I found an apartment to rent, and it was a great deal. It was $135 a month. It was the top of a house.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And I had just enough money for the first and last month rent, or I had enough money for gas to drive home back to Connecticut. So I just didn't know what to do. So I called my father on a payphone and I said, Dad, I'm really confused what I should do right now. I don't know if I should get this apartment and stay out here or if I should, come home. And I was hoping he would say, come home. But because he's the person he is, he said, Kev, stay out there and give it keep giving it a try. You're a big boy now. You stay out there and do it. And I knew that he wanted me to come home. He really did. But because he's such a great father, he gave me that guidance and I stayed.
And look at you now. Amazing.
And now here I am on your podcast, which I've been wanting to be on all my life. But I was going to say, I was in a club, I got a lot of great experiences from clubs. I was in one in New York City, and this is like maybe a year ago. And it was downstairs. I think it was the Comedy Cellar. I'm doing my act, and in the middle of my act, there's a lot of commotion. And what happened was some woman fell off her chair. She had a seizure or something, or she drank too much, whatever it was. But people they thought maybe she had a heart attack. And I was in the middle of doing this bit about this rawhide necklace that I had. And so I stopped, and the EMTs came in for about 10 minutes. They're getting her up. Finally, she got up, and everybody's just waiting around. The lights are on, and they took her out. And then they turned the lights back off again. and started the show. And I just picked right up where I left off. It goes, so yeah, so the necklace was kind of this rawhide thing. It was just a necklace. That's all it was, you know.
Oh my God. Yeah. I mean,
I couldn't wait. I couldn't wait for them to get her out of there so I could do that.
true. Oh my gosh. Well, Kevin, this has been amazing. We are so grateful that you came to this show that you've been wanting to do your entire life, since we've only been doing it for, well, maybe we've been doing it for our entire lives. We just don't realize it. Anyway, thank you so much, Kevin. You are amazing. Please, just everybody, I want you to tune in. I want you to buy his book. Go to kevinnealon.com/book and get his book, because it really is extraordinary. And, you know, follow him on Instagram at Kevin Nealon, or is it at Kevin? What is that?
Yeah, that's
lower
it.
thing?
At Kevin Nealon for
Yeah.
Instagram, and Twitter is at _Kevin.
Okay. Oh,
Kevin
Twitter,
_
whatever.
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
Well, I love
Anyway,
being on
please.
here. Thanks for having me. This was fantastic.
Oh, it's so great. You're an amazing human being, and I love that you're
So are
my
you.
friend. Well,
So are
you're my
you.
friend. So
Not so much Melissa, but you are amazing.
Oh.
oh, we'll have a therapy session about that later.
We need one on
Thank
that.
you.
I'm going to be drawing
There you go.
furiously tonight.
Exactly. We're revamping our careers. Thank you so much, Kevin. And
Okay.
thank you so much for everybody listening. Join us on Outcomes the Sun podcast next week. And please check out Mariel Hemingway Foundation.org in case you want to become, help us
Resource navigator.
Resource navigator. Gosh, my brain just turned off. Whatever, a resource navigator. So, because that's what we want to do, be able to give people options for mental health solutions. And thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you next week.